familiarity, you look at this, and everybody's hanging on every pitch right now, but, I mean, just tendencies, I mean, you look at the veteran hitters, you talked about that, but Dillard, Kessinger, what does their lineup bring?
Well, they've got, obviously, like we've talked about, the experience that you're looking for this time of year. You know, they've been through it like we have. I mean, on paper, I think the teams are pretty much even for the most part. They may be a little bit older than us. But, you know, their lineup is very explosive. They can put up some runs real quick like, you know, they did this past week. And I know in the 3 games they hit like over 400 as a team, which is pretty amazing against usually the arms that you see in regionals. You saw the arms we had to try to beat, and pretty electric. And but they're dangerous, you know, and they've got a good mix of right and left-handed hitter, switch hitter, and Dillard, and you know, physical kids that can leave the yard at just about any time.
You know, they've beaten you guys 10 of the last 14, won the last 2 series here. Do you think that gives them added confidence, or kind of how do you approach it? Because there aren't too many teams that have won series in here against you guys.
Well, yeah, they've done really well against us, you know, over the last 5 years, it seems like. So I'm sure it does give them confidence. But, you know, like I'd say all the time, especially this time of year, it's really about us. My concern is us. How are we going to play? How are we going to pitch, field, hit? More than the other team. And if we do what we can do, we got a chance to win the series.
Coach Isaiah Kimmel, I guess, will be on the bump Saturday to you guys.
Yeah, he'll pitch Saturday.
How does it feel for you for a player like that to come back and have the kind of season that he's had?
Well, it's obviously for Isaiah, it's he believed in himself. He bet on himself, and you know, he came back and he bettered himself in the draft. He obviously was our ace and the leader of our pitching staff. For me personally, I'll be able to use his story down the road. Kids in our program see what he's done. Kids that we're recruiting. It's been great to see. I'm happy for Isaiah. I'm happy for his parents because that was a big decision to turn down that money to come back. But like I said earlier, he believed in himself. And he wanted to be here, and you know, not only has he gotten better and got drafted higher, has helped us, you know, win. He's got his degree, and you know, he's very young for his grade. He just turned, you know, maybe 22 the other day, or I'm actually 21. I don't know, but he's a special kid. I mean, there's not a lot of those out there because he's very intelligent and he worked extremely hard and he's a really good leader.
And Dave, you talked a little bit about.
You'll throw Wicklander or no one second?
We don't know yet. We're going to TBA that. We've already told them that.
Hey, you talked a little bit about Nesbit last week, but what do you thought of the season he's had for you guys?
Well, defensively, it's been solid all year. Offensively, you know, you look at his numbers, batting average has fluctuated a lot. He got hot there for a while and got it up over 300, 310, 315. But what's been impressive is that, I mean, he's got 40 RBIs. And this is a guy that couldn't make the travel squad last year. And this year has really come out and established himself as a really good defender and a guy that has a knack for getting a big hit every now and then. And very popular amongst his teammates, good guy. Even keeled, and I think he's done a tremendous job for us.
Has he surprised you? I mean,
yeah, I mean, you can't, a guy that can't make the roster, and the next year he's starting on a team that wins 40 games. It's hard to, you know, project or predict that, and so, you know, I saw him as a young player. He kind of flatlined a little bit, stayed the same, and then this year he's made a jump.
What do you think? Why do you think he's made that jump?
He got stronger. You know, physically he's still a lean guy, but he's gotten stronger. You know, just through working with Blaine and just getting after it in the weight room and just being a part of it. And there's a lot of want to there. Plus he's another kid. He's a good student. He's smart. He knew what it was going to take, and he's done a good job.
How have you seen your freshmen develop this season and become the contributors that they are?
Well, you can't get to this point without freshmen. You know, you lose too many players every year. You've got to depend on a few of the guys to come in and play. You know, you look over the years, you know, you think about 2009, McCann, and, you know, a couple other guys, Zach Cox, and you go to the next year, you know, there's always a couple. There's the Eibners of the world, and on and on. But this year's group, you know, it ended up being, a couple of pitchers that have done a good job for us, obviously, third baseman, an outfielder. You've got to have those guys. These guys are playing and contributing. We don't ask the freshmen to come in and, verbally lead us. We just want them to contribute, and that's what they've done.
A lot of opposing coaches have talked about Opitz and Fletcher being able to impact the game without getting a hit. Just kind of what's their defense meant to you all?
Well, the defense up the middle is huge, and our center fielder and our catcher are a big part of that. And Opitz to me is like, he's like having a shortstop catching athletically. He's got a lot of energy. Umpires like working behind him. They feel like that he presents the ball to them really good. They get a good look. He makes borderline pitches look better than they are. He can block with anybody in the country. He's got an accurate arm, quick release, and the pitchers love throwing to him. And then Fletcher's just, he's been a magician in center field. He's got a feel, a knack for moving one way or the other. He gets great reads. He's got an accurate arm, and he's not scared of the fence, wall, whatever you want to say. He's fearless out there, and we've enjoyed having him out there. It's hard for a true freshman to come in and play center field like he did a few years back, and he's played there, for 3 straight years. And he's another guy that he could have signed out of high school, but he bet on himself and being a second round, whatever.
Did you ever envision him hitting cleanup like he has this year?
I thought he would be a 3, 4, 5 hole hitter when we got him because he had power. He had power to the pull side. It's just the way it seemed to work down the stretch in our lineup to put him there. To me, whether you're hitting 3, 4, or 5, it's all the same.
Yeah, you said the other day after the game that one of the things SEC coaches like about the NCAA tournament is you don't have to play another SEC team in your regional, but now you and Ole Miss are the only super regional SEC matchup, so you can't get away from them. You can't get away from each other. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's just feel great being in super regional, and I think Mike might tell you the same, Coach Bianco, that he'd probably rather play out of league, but it is what it is. We saw the bracket. Our biggest concern was getting through our regional, and I'm sure they were too. And I have a lot of respect for Mike and his staff. They do a great job recruiting, coaching. There's probably not a better staff in the league, and they play in front of a lot of fans like we do. It's kind of to me, it's the same type program, and it's going to be a great series.
You guys are playing early games, especially at 11 a.m. How do you feel about that?
Hey, we've prepared for this. We've had to play early games, doubleheaders, late games. It doesn't matter at this time of the year to the players. I mean, there's 16 teams left. If they tell us we got to play at 5 a.m., we'll play at 5 a.m. It doesn't matter. We just have to be ready mentally to go at 11 a.m.
Is it weird to go from playing at 8:30 to 11 a.m. from one game to the next?
I don't think so. I think if it was the next day, it would be more of a tough situation. But we have time to build up for this, as does Ole Miss, and you just prepare for it mentally and get your guys up a little earlier and get acclimated and go at it.
Coach Etheridge, Nikhazy, Hoagland, just going down the line, can't take a pitch off against this staff.
No, really good. Friday night starters, Saturday starters, Sunday starters. At this time of the year, it's all about, do they still have their stuff? Guys start to wear down, and from what I've seen, those guys aren't. Hoagland was a guy that they didn't think he might make it to school, and he shows up. Nikhazy, to me, he's the best freshman pitcher in the league, and I actually, voted for him as freshman player of the year. He didn't get it. They gave it to Mississippi State's pitcher. That's the way I felt because I've watched him against us. I've watched him against other teams. He pitches like he's 21 years old, 22 years old, and it's just it's a tough staff.
16 teams left, 5 of them in your division. What do you think about that?
Well, I've been saying it all year. The Western Division is the toughest division in the country this year. It's older. There's not much difference between, 1 through 6, honestly, because I include A&M in there. Everybody was that good, and it was just such a grind to get through it. And SEC, it's what we signed up for.
Does that add to the sense of accomplishment, sharing the division title when 5 are still playing?
Yeah, I mean, it's an accomplishment. I mean, obviously, it's tough to win a division. It's tough to get to a regional with all the parity now in Division I baseball. So it's 2 years in a row we finished tied at the top, and better than finishing second.
Dave, as it relates to your signees, how do you feel like the draft has gone so far?
Well, the signees are, I've been dealing with it last night and this morning, and if you noticed in the draft, it's been about 75% college players out of the first 10 rounds. So I feel like today they're going to be taking a lot of the high school guys and they're going to offer them over slot money by a lot, and they're working deals, going to try to save money, maybe rounds 5 through 10, so they'll have it for those rounds. And, so far so good. But I say it all the time. They're trying to buy these kids out of college. They have a checkbook and we don't. We'll just see what happens.
So how do you feel about all the guys that are on the team now that have been drafted?
I'm really excited for these guys. They've all worked hard. We had 2 go the first night, and then 4 yesterday, and guys that have battled different things, whether it's just getting on the field, injuries, waiting their turn. So just happy for those guys. They can relax and just play ball this weekend. And I think to the man, they'd tell you they're excited about being drafted, but they're hooked up for this weekend.
You got the only major sport where they have the draft. This would be like having the NFL draft during bowl season or having the NBA draft during the NCAA tournament. I mean, they'd never do that. But you have guys who go from, the excitement of winning the regional to getting drafted. Now they got to get refocused for a super. What kind of challenges does that present?
Well, it's an individual challenge for those that are waiting, or the ones that have drafted. They've got to just, be strong about it really, and stay within, what we're trying to do here, and that's get to the next step. So. We practiced early yesterday, and we were off the field just about by the time the draft started, so those guys could go enjoy it. Today we're going to be out here for an hour and 15 minutes and let a few of those guys kind of get that underneath them and move on, hopefully, and get to hear their name. And but I think we've got some guys that are pretty mature, and they're not all stressed out about it now. I think the ones that have been drafted, it's kind of like it's over, it's a relief. Now let's just move on. But the timing of it's not good, and I think it could change over the next few years.
You've got a handful of 3rd and 4th year players who didn't play a whole lot before this season, but they've obviously had big roles. How much do you feel like that's helped you get back to this point?
Well, it's easier to get here with older kids because they've been around it, even if they weren't right in the middle of it on the field. And I think sometimes each individual, they want to prove that they're worthy, obviously, and I feel like that a lot of these guys have gone out and proven this year that they belong here. They were worthy last year, but they were behind somebody that was good, and we made a great run, and they want to do what those guys did. And but it's like I tell them, they're their own team. This is a totally different team. It's been fun being around these guys. It was fun last year, but it's fun being around these guys this year, and that they're still writing their own story, and hopefully we got a couple more chapters to go.
I don't think I was around when you said this, but I read it, I think it was Matt's story, that you said you wanted Marten to play shortstop this year because if you put Kenley there, he was going to be drafted, which, I mean,
I was right.
You as you always are.
Not always.
What made you so confident that a guy who really hadn't played much for you would be drafted?
I really liked his tools. I liked he can run, he can really throw, he's got a really good glove. And he hits left-handed, and I knew if he hit, and I felt like he hit in the fall against some pretty good arms. Our guys were throwing the ball 92, 95 in the fall, and we hit him a little bit. I was a little nervous about it. Didn't know if we could pitch. So, I just felt like that it was his draft year, and I know that infielders are, that can have all those type tools are hard to find, and he was ready. He wasn't ready as a freshman, and sophomore he didn't get enough opportunity, and then obviously went out and did it this year.
Did his he's hit 320, 10 home runs, 50 RBIs, like a lot of doubles. I mean, is numbers that good? Does that surprise you?
Well, again, I can't predict that. Probably a little bit. We thought he would hit some home runs. I didn't know if he'd hit double digits, and hitting 300, you got to be a little lucky, you got to be good. And the reason he hits 300 is he doesn't swing at a lot of bad pitches. He's got a little more advanced strike zone discipline than some of the guys. But I'm not surprised by the success he's had for the whole year.
What about Cody Scroggins? The journey he's had going from infield to Tommy John's and now being drafted in the 9th round?
It doesn't surprise me one bit. I can remember talking to Cody, and you can ask him about it. It was freshman year. We were doing some infield drills, and I just said, hey, you pitched in high school, and I saw you pitch, and you threw the ball 90 miles an hour, right around 90 miles an hour. I said, we kind of like to pitch you a little bit. And he just said, I'll do whatever I got to do to get on the field. And he threw 20-pitch bullpen after that practice. Coach Jordan did it with him and called me and said he threw probably 18 strikes. And he was in like 88, 89 miles an hour. And I just felt like that he, if he wasn't going to hit enough to play every day, that he might be able to make a living for a while pitching. And then he got it going the next year, pretty good for us, and he hurt his elbow. And he's had some setbacks, but his stuff is as good as anybody we have. And if he stays healthy, he may play for a long time.
You moved Trevor to the leadoff position after the Ole Miss series. What have you liked about him in that spot?
He just seems to be really tough out there, and he'll take some pitches, but he'll also attack you. Yeah, he's done a good job of driving and run second, third time through. We were just going a little bit stale, a little bit offensively. It wasn't quite working day in and day out. It just seemed like we put him in the leadoff spot. He just kind of got us going a little bit. Whether he got a hit or not, he battled up there, and we started. His on base percentage, it just added up for us.
What does Casey Marten need to do at the plate to get going again?
Well, I think like any hitter, you're going to go through a slump every now and then, and I really like the approach that Casey's taken. He hasn't been all uptight or let it show in the locker room or in the dugout that it's not going good for him personally. Just have some good at-bats, which I felt like his last few at-bats against TCU on Sunday were really good. And, I don't know. I think that, like always, when he squares it up, we want to keep it between the white lines. He's hooked a couple balls foul, really working on staying through the middle of the field. He did a great job the last couple of days in practice doing that.
You feel like he's ready to break out this weekend?
I do. I think I always feel that way with Casey. I think he's just one swing away from really getting it rolling, and he's a guy that can change a game and win a game for you by himself.
What are some of your considerations when you're thinking about a Game 2 starter in this series?
We'll see how it goes Game 1 first. That's really about it. Yeah.
Whenever you get to a Super Regional, everyone says 2 wins to Omaha, but the guys aren't saying that. How do you maintain that they don't let this?
Because we don't talk about that. We've already had that discussion. We talk about that all the time over the years. You don't talk about how many games you got to win. If you win one, you don't talk about winning another one. You just play. You just look at this inning. I told them yesterday, and the day before, we don't even think about that stuff. You get all stressed out, and next thing you know, you don't win any games. And there's just this game is, you have to use your mind a lot in this game, and there's a lot of time that your mind can wander. It's not like football where you go start smacking people around. You can't do that in this game where you can get a little bit of that out of your system. So you have to really, really, stay busy and think about the right things and not think about what could happen that will never happen if you start thinking like that.
We talked about how Ole Miss has had some success here, but you guys obviously have really had a lot of success here, especially in recent years. I mean, how good do you feel playing at home, even if it's against Ole Miss?
Well, I feel a lot better playing at home than on the road because we played well here the last couple of years. They're the team that we, for some reason, and give them credit, we haven't played well against them. So they pitched us well, they've hit us well, and we've got to try to flip that, or we won't get out of here.
How excited were you for Cronin to get drafted after a couple of good years?
Yeah, I was excited for Matt. He's done a good job, and he's having a really good year. Kind of quietly, a little more quietly than last year. It seems like he's thrown more strikes this year than he did last year. Velocity is the same, maybe a little better. He's actually got a little bit of a breaking ball now. Just happy for him and his family.
Yeah, a couple of things to ask, but I didn't want Nate's head to explode.